Welcome to LMX. Today we're asking a tough question. Why is South Africa so messed up? We're taking an in-depth look at a nation where symbolic projects and perks for the political elite seem to take precedence over vital public services. From multi-million rand statues to perks like free flights for former politicians, while ordinary citizens struggle with failing infrastructure and overburdened healthcare, we'll explore how decades of mismanagement, corruption, and historical legacies have led to this crisis. South Africa's challenges are not new. The legacy of apartheid left deep economic and social scars, and while democracy was born over 30 years ago under the ANC, many argue that the ruling party's prolonged tenure has fostered an environment where power becomes entrenched. Instead of focusing on immediate, life-changing improvements, government resources are often funneled into projects with more symbolic than practical value. Let's start with monuments and perks. Consider the case of government spending on statues. In recent years, South Africa has seen the unveiling of high-cost monuments. For instance, a 13 million rand statue of anti-apartheid veteran or Tambo was unveiled during a time of economic hardship, sparking widespread public outrage. Critics argue that such projects are out of touch with the everyday needs of South Africans. And then there's the issue of perks. Former members of parliament, for instance, receive free domestic flights, even for their spouses. According to reports from IOL, these free flights are limited to 12 economy-class tickets per year. Yet when you compare this with the state of our public transport, where a once-efficient rail system now struggles to carry thousands of commuters daily, it raises a simple question. How can a government justify spending on luxury benefits when basic services are in crisis? While government officials enjoy perks and symbolic spending, the backbone of the country, its infrastructure, is crumbling. South Africa's rail network, which once efficiently transported thousands daily, is in decline. Overcrowded trains, delays, and deteriorating tracks not only inconvenience commuters but also hamper economic productivity. At the same time, petrol prices keep rising. Transport costs have soared, placing a heavy burden on workers who depend on affordable public transportation. These issues directly affect everyday life and are a far cry from the luxurious projects being championed in Parliament. Our healthcare system is another area where government inaction is painfully evident. Public hospitals and clinics, often the only option for millions, are overcrowded, understaffed, and frequently unable to offer full services on weekends. Imagine waiting in a queue of 300 people for basic treatment. Recent fiscal policies have also come under fire. There's been controversy over VAT increases and the way government has handled social grants, for instance, the 370 rand grant for the unemployed. While the intention behind these measures might be to boost revenue or support the vulnerable, critics argue that they're merely band-aid solutions that do nothing to address the systemic inefficiencies in our public services. Rather than a coherent strategy for reform, these measures are often implemented without the urgency or accountability needed to truly turn things around. So who's to blame? Is it the politicians who are simply out of touch? Or is it the red tape and entrenched bureaucracy that stifles progress? Perhaps it's a combination of both. The ANC has been in power for over 3 decades. Over time, this long tenure may have led to complacency, corruption, and a focus on patronage politics rather than service delivery. Reports suggest that mismanagement and inefficient allocation of resources have become all too common. While symbolic projects make for eye-catching headlines, they distract from the urgent need to invest in schools, hospitals, and infrastructure that would genuinely improve the lives of millions. Critics point out that such mismanagement isn't accidental. It's the result of a system that rewards loyalty and cronyism over expertise and accountability. And with deep-seated issues left unresolved since the apartheid era, reform seems an uphill battle. Behind these policies and projects are the real human costs. Every day, citizens bear the brunt of rising living costs, deteriorating public services, and a government that appears more concerned with its image than with people's welfare. Overpriced monuments and free perks for the elite stand in stark contrast to the long waits at public hospitals, the unreliable rail services, and the everyday struggle to afford basic necessities. The picture is clear. There is an urgent need for reform. South Africans are calling for greater transparency and accountability. The voices of the people are demanding that government reallocate resources from symbolic gestures to initiatives that genuinely improve public services. We need leaders who understand the reality on the ground, leaders who will invest in robust infrastructure, modernize our healthcare system, and ensure that economic policies truly benefit the public rather than serve the interests of the few. It's time for a political and administrative overhaul that puts the needs of citizens first. So, what are the steps toward change? Demand transparency. Citizens must insist on clear, open accounting of how public funds are spent. Prioritize basic services. Investments should focus on rebuilding our rail network, upgrading hospitals and clinics, and ensuring affordable public transport. Reform the system. The long tenure of any ruling party can lead to entrenched practices. New policies, oversight, and an independent public service are crucial. Hold politicians accountable. Public pressure, media scrutiny, and active civic engagement can force politicians to make decisions that benefit everyone, not just themselves. South Africa stands at a crossroads. On one side lies the legacy of misdirected spending and neglect, a system that has, for too long, placed symbolic monuments and political perks above the urgent needs of its people. On the other side is the potential for change, a reformed government that invests in the future, in infrastructure, in healthcare, and in the welfare of every citizen. The question remains, will those in power finally choose to act in the public interest, or will they continue to be out of touch with the realities faced by millions? As citizens, we have a voice. It's time to demand accountability and put pressure on our leaders to make the tough decisions that can truly transform our nation. If you believe South Africa deserves better, and that our leaders must refocus their priorities, please hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to LMX for more in-depth, fact-based analysis. Let's start a conversation about accountability, transparency, and the future we deserve. Thank you for watching, and remember, change begins with us.